Mr. Chairman, we are live.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Pierce. I am the chairman of the Town Office's Feasibility Study Committee. It's now 6:35 p.m. on November 1st. We're going to call this meeting to order. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to the extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29, 2023. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. This meeting will be live streamed, but will have no option for public participation. At this time, we're going to make a roll call to make sure that everyone can hear us and be heard in the meeting. Members, when I call your name, please answer in the affirmative. Aaron Hutchins.
Present.
Judy Boyle.
Present.
Kristen Wickstead.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please answer in the affirmative. Scott Charpentier.
Present.
And Sean Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. So now that we have that out of the way, first order of business is going to be the acceptance of the September 13th meeting minutes. I know in the last meeting we had to push them off a little bit to make some changes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any conversation? Okay, we'll go through a roll call vote. Aaron Hutchins.
Aye.
Judy Boyle.
Aye.
Kristen Wickstead.
Aye.
And I have to abstain because I think that's the one that I missed.
Correct.
So 3-0 and 1 abstention. It passes. Next item is the October 25th minutes. Did everyone have a chance to go through them?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the October 25th minutes?
I didn't.
Sorry,
I didn't have a chance to go through them.
Okay.
But I could just abstain and you could do it anyway.
No, we can do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's fine. So we'll push that one off to the next meeting. So next item on the agenda is deliberation and selection of the consultants. I don't think we don't have everyone here, so I would be a little concerned doing any selection at this point. But let's open it up at least for conversations, right? I'm curious what everyone thought of the 3 presenters.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, Kristen, can I just say something before you go?
Yeah, of course.
If the chair feels like we're not going to be making any votes today and we don't have people here, are we going to be repeating this the next time around?
No, fortunately, the Mullins rule allows people to be able to view the meeting and then participate later. So they'd be able to view what we talk about and then be able to add in their items later.
Okay, so assuming that the meeting stays with the current attendees, we give our input, we close the meeting, we have another meeting, they give their input, then we vote. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Kristen.
And also, it's possible somebody might pop in late.
Yep.
So I volunteered to go first because I was very impressed with everyone. I thought they were all really good. I do think the last 2 groups had the benefit of not being first, so it was easier to remember them a little bit, but I honestly think that, well, they all said they had town hall experience. They all shared, or building town hall experience even. And they all shared very specific examples of the kind of thing that we're looking for. So, yeah, I just thought I'd open with that, something really warm and fuzzy, and like they all are, they all impressed me. Maybe that's not hard, but anyway, that was my first take on that.
Okay. I completely agree with you. I think they're all qualified to do the feasibility study. So before I went into that meeting, I had written down 3 questions that I wanted answers from each of them, right? How long from the decision that we make to complete the report? How many town halls for the project manager or the company? And then their feeling on community involvement. And I think they all pretty much in their presentations answered at least those last 2, right? For me, the only thing was the second one. It was HKT. When I asked them about their timeline, they couldn't really give me a solid answer that they could get it done in the time we had in the 120 days. So that concerned me a little bit. I mean, I think they're qualified. I think they did hedge based on, what they said was it's based on what this committee can do, right? And how many times we go back to the public or anything else like that, which is a valid answer. But it just concerned me that the other 2 were able to say, yep, we can make that time frame.
I feel like that was more of a stylistic choice in answering the question, though, and not really a reason. I don't know. I don't feel like that's a hard and fast reason to say they might not get it done in time.
Right.
That's how I interpreted that answer to that question, was more of a interview style. And also for those of us like me who haven't done something terribly similar to this before, at least not for the town, I also took it to mean there are a lot of variables that have to do with this. So if you all hold up your end of it, we will definitely hold up our end of it. That's how I heard that answer.
Yeah.
I didn't take it as any kind of a red flag.
Yeah. And that may be, like I said, that's sort of how they answered it, right? Is,
Yeah.
as long as we have, the committee's ear, then we can get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it just seemed like the other 2 were much, here's the timeline. Judy, Aaron, any?
Bill, I will agree with you on that. I felt that what I was comparing, right, while I was hearing each of the presentations, I was thinking to myself, some people are better interviewees than they are, at doing the job. Okay. So I felt, in terms of physical presentation, we wanted to meet in person so we could feel the energy. I got great energy from BH and A. I got pretty good energy from Icon. I didn't get great energy from Bill Hammer. Yet he clearly has completed some substantial projects. So the other 2 could have, because they are quick tongue, they could have said, yep, no problem, we can meet this deadline. Maybe the interviewee didn't want to just shoot out an answer and just say, yep, I can do it, so I kind of took that to heart. I was trying to weigh in on, I don't want to be fazed by the people that really wowed us in their presentation if their work doesn't match that. So if that makes sense, but I do agree with that. And what Kristen was saying, yes, it's like Kristen says, perhaps stylistic. I don't think we should rule them out because they didn't answer that question to our, our satisfaction.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, each of the presentations was really, really good. A lot of common themes across the three. I'll leave it there and see if somebody else wants to jump off on that for a minute.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think all three were qualified to do the job, right? It's interesting that you put it as, people that don't interview well, sometimes they're the better workers, right? So you just never know.
Yep. I certainly it's unfortunate that Dario's not here because his input really gets the conversation going, gives us food for thought, and he has worked with each of these firms. I'm just, I really couldn't give a recommendation for one right now without his kind of, insight. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I agree with you. I would like to jump back in on the energy point though for a second, if we could. So, so I had a different, like if we were rating them on energy, I would definitely say the last two groups. So that was, HKT and Icon came in with like a whole bunch of people, including an engineer, and everyone looked really ready to jump right into the work. And actually, I guess it was Bill Hammer, the guy who was with the three women. He's the one who said this is the fun part of his job. So he would be involved because this is the fun stuff, I believe was his. So that's great energy to me. That's somebody who really loves not only what they do, but they love this part of what they do. So that made me feel like they were really excited. And then the last people also seemed, I don't know about excited, but they seemed like they were eager and raring to go. And I didn't necessarily get that from the first people, but like I said, they didn't seem less qualified. So I think that maybe that kind of thing is very subjective. I agree also that Dario tends to have points to bring up that the rest of us might not. So yeah, and I texted him again after the meeting started to see if he was just coming late, and he hasn't replied, so maybe maybe he just can't make it.
okay.
I know that I'm going back to the minutes from the September meeting, and I know that Dario had the questions that he brought up were he's more concerned with the person in charge, put a lot of weight on that. And for Icon, what he wanted to see happen, and I'm not speaking for him, I'm just going on what he said, and I took notes. It happened, they answered our question. They said, bring to our presentation the people that are going to be in charge and tell us what you've done for town hall work. So Icon, I felt, definitely did that. And again, just to circle back, Bill Hammer with HKT, I just felt that he just wasn't a great interviewer. And that's okay. The people he brought, yes, had great energy. So if he does a good job, I don't care what, if he's introverted or just not comfortable with public speaking. I hadn't, I didn't have a problem with that. And then there was another one, for BHA. Dario had mentioned, he really wanted to see Joel in charge, and they originally sent Rachel Young. Originally said Rachel would be the project manager. She didn't even come, and I asked them about that, and they kind of just went, well, yeah, she'll be working on it. So I was kind of like, I'm not sure what's, is if there's a disconnect here. I was a little bit confused about that. Again, just for conversation. I don't know if anybody else picked up on these things.
I did pick up on that too, Judy.
Yeah.
And I took it to mean that they would be working with a team too. They just didn't bring the whole team with them or something, but that Joel would be part of the team. I felt
Yeah.
like they were pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I felt that BH&A, the two of them did a fantastic presentation. Sometimes it's about quality and not quantity, but yeah, you send in a whole team. Aaron, you probably know, you send in the defense team, it's threatening power in numbers. Not necessarily here, we just want to know who, which firm is going to have all the right, all the people working under them to get this job done and share our vision as a town.
Yeah, in the legal world, that's really more for Hollywood. So
That's not
doesn't necessarily.
just for TV.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm watching too much
murder mysteries.
Too much Suits.
yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. But it worked, yes, I was impressed, but I tried to give the people that came with too, and I felt right out of the gate, the two that came in, they had a fantastic presentation. They anticipated that we're going to want a lot of community involvement. I just felt like they laid the line. I had a very clear vision of what they wanted, what they would do. We didn't get a handout for Icon didn't give us a handout, right? I was looking for that.
No.
When I was going through.
Yeah, they didn't give it to everyone. I think Scott did get a copy, correct, Scott?
We got a
we have a
digital
thumb
copy.
drive for that one.
Oh, that's the thumb on the thumb drive. Okay.
Okay. Was anybody surprised by any of the ideas for the different buildings, or the opinions about which buildings could work and which could not?
That's a great question, Judy. that was interesting. It seemed like BH+A was they definitely had strong opinions on that and made it clear that they thought renovating 63 Main Street or for West Main were the two ways to go, whereas the other people I think it was the third people, they were like, nope, we didn't even get into that. And then the Icon people, no, that was Icon. And then the HKT people were like, they seemed the most willing to discuss White Cliffs as a option for something, and possibly building like a town hall attached to the mansion where the current banquet hall is that needs to be torn down. Which I thought sounded like a lovely idea. And I know we still probably don't have enough money to do that, but wouldn't that be cool for everyone? But also and they seemed, I think everybody was kind of like, why is the fire station in here? They all seemed a little puzzled by that, which honestly, like a lot of people I talk to in town have seemed puzzled by that too. So, but But yeah, that's a really good point, Judy. But also it wasn't really what they were tasked to do yet, so it's okay like that. Again, they all answered the question in an interesting way. That's a good one.
While you were talking about, Kristen, HKT talking about White Cliffs, I found it funny that they said it's a 15-minute walk from the old town hall and it's outside of the business district.
Yeah, they were like, it's so far away. No, really.
Yeah, they don't live here.
Yeah, exactly. They just don't live here. And I
But
think
they
I
made
don't remember which
made a
group
part
it
of that.
was that said like, well, people might not know where that is. Like there's nobody in this town who doesn't know where White Cliffs is. We're good.
There's nobody in this state that doesn't know where White Cliffs is. Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, just really quickly. I was a former consultant. I went through a lot of interviews, and different consultants at different firms have different approaches. There's a big risk going into an interview with an analysis of the buildings and the properties in advance, because you haven't read the community, you haven't read the committee, you're not sure what is an appropriate or desirable approach. So there's a wide variety of methods to go to an interview. Some just say, here's my process. It's proven. It's consistent. I'm not looking at anything until, I speak to you first. So those that do homework take a risk. Those that don't, that's their model. So just food for thought when you're deliberating. That's all.
Thank you. Nope, very helpful.
Yeah, it's sort of a risk both ways, right? Heron, you're being pretty quiet over there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I apologize. I'm being quiet. I'm just weighing in my head the value of going tonight in the absence of whatever, essentially half the committee or 3 or 4 people out of the committee, because I feel like we're going to be repeating this all over again. But to the extent that we have this meeting rolling and maybe there's some public chiming in, I guess it's my obligation to respond. So let me say this before I give my report on the other night's interviews. I happened to look at the last meeting for the fire station committee, which, I mean, there's so many things going on in town. I certainly don't envy somebody who's trying to stay on top of everything, and I'm not, but I did happen to peek into the fire station committee meeting, the last one that was held, and lo and behold, to my surprise, there was HKT. So I wasn't aware that HKT was the firm working on the fire station study. So that was point number 1. And then point number 2 from that last fire station committee meeting, it seems as though that committee has determined that we're going to be holding a special town meeting in September or October. And so if that's the case, I don't know why we're hurrying for April. If we're going to be having a special town meeting, we could just lump ourselves in with them. So I bring those 2 points to the front before I give my feedback. I don't know, like now I look back on the September 13th minutes where I think the town indicated that HKT was at the top of their list. So I don't know what the timeline is in terms of when they started working with the town, but it may just be that they've had this experience with the town now for X number of months, and that's why they feel like HKT is at the top of their list. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. I didn't mean to jump on to the fire station committee hearing, but that's the kind of exciting life that I lead. And I just tune into videos on demand occasionally. So in terms of the interview the other night, let me just say that all the presenters' materials failed for me because their font size was like 4 and I couldn't see a darn thing. And that may be more my eye problem than anything else, but it made it very difficult to review the materials, even the ones that gave us printed materials. I mean, I felt like I had to get a magnifying glass out to read some of the slides that they had. So I don't know that I had a full review of the materials. I'll just put that out there. In terms of the presenters, I think from I'd love to say this in front of Dario, but I guess if he's going to watch this video, then Dario will say it recorded. I don't know if the technicality of the presentation on the first presenter was what made it so difficult for me to navigate with them or to connect with them. But I thought that the first presenter was a little too industry speak. I don't know what the correct term is, but it just didn't help me as a non-architectural individual to connect with them. So and it may be, like Kristen said, maybe they had the benefit or the disadvantage of going first, but I found it very difficult to connect with our first presenter. The second presenter, I preferred the project manager's presentation style. I think her name's Amy. She's working with the town now. I did enjoy listening to her explain things. I mean, honestly, if we went with HKT, I would make some clause in the agreement that says Amy's going to be the public voice for that firm because, you know, as already has been pointed out, I think the head of that firm maybe doesn't present as well. So I thought that was a point. I also appreciated the second presenter's education about phase construction in terms of possibilities with the buildings. I wasn't aware, I hadn't contemplated that. I appreciated learning about that. I am disappointed that the third presenter didn't offer ideas on the proposed buildings. But I am pleased with the way that they approached the initial input session in terms of interviewing the town departments to see how things flow and interact. That DNA looking thing that they put up right at the start, I thought that was very intelligent in terms of, you know, understanding which departments interact with which and whatever. And I think a couple of the presenters talked about the potential for using the smaller buildings that we're contemplating as annexes for some departments who maybe don't need to be in a town office building. And I thought that was noteworthy. So, you know, I don't know how this is all going to shake out in terms of the analysis of whether or not it's worth keeping all these buildings, selling them, whatever. But during the interview session the other night and hearing them talking about using the buildings as potential annex locations for some of these other departments, I thought that wasn't necessarily such a bad idea. I mean, I'm sure there are a number of departments in the current town hall building that probably don't interact with the other departments on any sort of a regular basis. I mean, I don't know, is Scott, I know DPW's got its own headquarters, but, you know, like Family Youth Services, the Activities Department, the name is escaping me.
Recreation.
Recreation, thank you. You know, all those things, if they weren't in the actual town hall, would that be to a detriment to like accounting or finance or the administration? I don't know. Can't imagine that it would be. So I just think that there's some opportunities there for creative navigation in terms of how we manage these buildings that we've got. And two, I think a point that I had made offline, there's a house currently for sale just east of 63 Main, which I'd be interested in knowing, you know, what the terms for sale are on that building. I think the timing of that sale is fortuitous. If 63 Main is going to be involved, I think whoever the firm is that handles this is going to have to work quickly to contemplate whether that house that's currently for sale is something that we need to pursue. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the thoughts that I had coming off the interview. But I think probably it's probably noteworthy for this committee to contemplate whether or not we need to push this for April if we're going to have a special town meeting as a result of the fire station committee.
Yeah, while I agree with that, I do want to keep within the, sorry, Scott, was it an RFP or an RFQ that we had submitted?
It was an RFQ.
RFQ. Within the RFQ was actually the time frame. So it's in the contract already. I'm sure we probably have the option to expand it if we need to. But, you know, for the purposes of the interview, I was trying to keep it within that 120 days, only because it is stated in there. But I agree with you. You know, if we could tack it on to the fall one and make it a little bit, you know, that might make it a little bit easier and give
Well, it's not
us
clear.
some runway.
It's not clear to me that the fall one is guaranteed. I mean, I know they said that they were looking to do that, but just because a committee says they want to have a special town meeting doesn't mean they're guaranteed to have it, right? I mean, they've got to go
Right.
through the process. So
Yep.
Scott, where do we stand on that? I mean, is this a done deal already?
Through the chair. So I do participate in the fire station building committee meetings. The goal and objective is to have that project receive adequate public input as well as adequate exposure through the land use boards in town. And the current schedule does not allow for those two components to meet April town meeting. So whether it's a special town meeting in the fall or the following annual, we don't know at this point. But the goal and objective is to hit a special town meeting, which would allow the project to be presented further down the design timeline while not impacting the construction timeline.
Right, but my question is, the process that's required for a special town meeting, is that underway? Is that already done? I mean, where do we stand on that?
I feel like I should know this.
Mhm.
You know, Scott?
I do. It's not underway. Special town meetings can be, if you're aggressive with your schedule, can be conducted in 6 weeks. That's not common, and a lot of this is in flux, waiting on a new town administrator. The majority of our peers have special town meetings in the fall. We have not historically, but we'll see who comes into the corner office. But the expectation is to do that so that we don't lose a construction season and therefore increase construction costs going forward.
Yeah, and I think to maybe finish answering Aaron's question, the process is just that the town administrator talks to the moderator and they declare it or whatever, or maybe the select board votes on it or something, but it's not a huge process as long as the town administrator's on board, I think.
I feel like there's a little bit more of a process. I mean, from my recollection of my term with the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, I seem to remember a citizen wanting to organize a special town meeting on a certain issue, and he needed to gather X number of, signatures of registered voters in town. And once he had obtained that, then there's really nothing that the town could do to prevent it, I think. So that,
right. Well, there's two different ways to do it, Aaron. That's one way. If a citizen wants one, they do have to go through quite a rigmarole. But I think if the town wants to do it, it's a different rigmarole and it's a simpler one.
Yeah, Kristen, you're correct. The town moderator is the overseer of town meeting, and I've seen town meetings in my town, Grafton. Special town meetings occur real quick when you have a tight timeline when it comes to a property purchase or things like that.
Yeah, so if it benefits the town and it's an efficiency matter just to help the town and make the town administrator's job easier, obviously they're going to be like, yeah, let's have another town meeting. I think the fire station one wouldn't be a big deal. And yes, the other question would be, if it worked out that this project would benefit by piggybacking on that town meeting, I don't think that would be a big deal either. But that's a little further down the road at this point.
Yeah.
well,
Good.
I mean, I'm certainly one member on the committee, so, but I'll put it out there. I don't see the value of continuing discussion in the absence of members and a decision that we've already made that we're not going to advance any sort of preference or vote. So how long do we want to go before we consider a motion to continue or adjourn?
So I just have one other item that I'd like to bring up, and this is more to think about for the next meeting. I don't know that we're all going to agree on who all of these firms were like I said, they were all capable of doing this process, right? What I've done in my job, I actually have a state job at the MBTA, and what we've done is we'll actually come out and rank, right? 1, 2, and 3. Who's our first, second, and third? We have everyone rank and basically score, and then we'll tally up the scores, and whoever gets the lowest score is the one that the committee goes with. I'd like to put that out there. We don't have to make that decision now. We can discuss that at the next meeting. If anyone has any other ideas on how to manage that, because like I said, they're all capable of doing it, so it's really minor differences.
It's a great idea, though.
I mean, do we go back to the original, the score sheet that we had, and is this what you're suggesting, Pierce? Bill. The word
Yeah.
matrix comes to mind, just like what one of our consultants discussed the matrix program, the matrix method rather. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, like I said, it's as simple as Judy, you would come up with just rank 1, 2, 3. Which one is your your number 1 choice, your number 2 choice, your number 3 choice, and then we just put it all in a spreadsheet, and then at the bottom you just add up the numbers, and whoever scores lowest. So your first gets a 1, your second gets a 2, your third gets a 3, and then whoever scores the lowest is pretty much who the committee agrees to, and then we can discuss it at that point. But I think that's an easy way to sort of get them lined up. Again, we don't have to make that decision now. I just think that that's and if, like I said, if anyone has any other ideas, I'm completely open to it.
I think that makes perfect sense, and if we all come out and we all have, in a perfect world, we all have the same ranking, then it really makes our decision that much easier. But again, go back to the evaluation form, and go that, and then go back to the ranking now that we've had the in-person presentations.
Right.
I think that's a great next step, or one of the steps.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the future meeting date. Now, I have been in contact with Linda, trying to make sure that she's able to attend our next meeting. I know it's going to be sort of tough without everyone here, Ashley and Dario. We can come up with a suggestion at this point, and then we'll have to reach out to them to make sure that they can make the date. But I think it's really important that everybody makes the next meeting. Linda did, in my back and forth with Linda, I think we agreed on the 16th, which is, let me pull up my calendar here.
It's a Thursday?
That's a Thursday?
Yep.
Not next Thursday, but the Thursday after?
Oh, we are voting on a new town administrator, the select board, and we are definitely having interviews on the 15th, and we might be having interviews also on the 16th. So if it were the 16th, I would be busy.
Okay.
I won't be available on the 16th.
You won't, Aaron? Okay. I really don't want to go into the next week because that's Thanksgiving. And Linda said Linda only gave me the 14th, 15th, and 16th, and the 14th I have planning board. The 15th is, like you said, Kristen, you're busy, and I have traffic safety.
And Linda can't do Wednesdays
Before.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to push this out any further than we have to.
Friday night party.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the 17th, right?
That's actually my birthday. So.
Oh, celebration. We get to vote.
Cake.
How
Want to
does
be a cake? No,
how does the 17th look for everybody here?
I'm available.
I don't know, Kristen, do you really want to have a meeting on your birthday?
Well, I mean, it's either that or the 20th, right? Or what about the Monday of the week?
The
That week.
13th?
The 13th? Do, do you
We don't have
have,
a select board meeting that day.
oh, you don't?
No, that's between week.
Yeah, I think though Linda said she wasn't going to be available. She only gave me the 14th, 15th, and 16th. So I don't even know if the 17th would work for her or not.
Okay. Well, I guess, Bill, what you have to do is send out like a doodle poll or something and just see what works for people the most.
Yeah. And so so is the select board meeting on the 20th?
Yes.
Okay. So what about the 27th?
That's the next.
I know that's the Monday after
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, there's nothing on the calendar.
Judy, Aaron, does that work for you guys?
Works for me.
Right. Monday, November 27th works for me.
Okay. So Scott will tentatively set that for the same time, 6:30.
Like 6:30 on the
20
17th?
The 27th.
Oh, the 27th. Okay.
Yep, that's
Yep.
Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then we'll reach out to Linda, Ashley, and Dario and see if they can make that. If not, then we'll send out an email trying to figure out a date. But the next meeting has to have everybody, right? You know, we can't keep having meetings missing people and then we're trying to get this vote done.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Okay.
move to
Well,
adjourn.
everyone have a happy Thanksgiving, and Kristen, happy birthday. Is there any other business that may come before the committee?
Nope.
If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
Okay. All those approved, Aaron? Judy?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
And